to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Austin, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am so excited, yes, again, with another amazing professional here on the 2018 BMWOC podcast. This is definitely the podcast to be on in 2018 because this year we have more than 50 participants, 60, maybe 70, even 75 if we can get them all on here at the same time. So I want you guys to definitely take a moment to go to all the pages, check them out, listen to the podcast, get your information, reach out to them because that's what the community is built for, to help you. Just in case you didn't know, the purpose of the BMWC is to not only share our industry information, but we are encouraging you, the working professional enthusiast, to go out there and find out what is going on in your industry so you can make the best decision. One of the first things we want to do before we get started is to thank our corporate sponsors, which are Cat Sereno LLC, Cheryl Wood Empowers, Concern and Learning, Evangelism Radio, Genesis Preferred Solutions, J Coach International, Nels Tax Help, My Financial Home, Power, STCI, and the Student Teacher, along with our business affiliate partners, which we have one on the call right now, and all of the people who are supporting this event. So thank you so much. So today, again, I'm excited because we have another business affiliate sponsor who has stepped up to the plate to support small businesses and authors, and that is Janika Joyner. Janika Joyner is the founder of Elevation Counseling Services, LLC, which is a company that addresses the effects and adverse childhood experiences that have on the mind, body, and spirit. She has a master's of social work with a specialization in clinical concentration from Norfolk State University. And she specializes and she is certified in clinical trauma through the International Association of Trauma Professionals. She is also a member of the National Association of Social Workers and Black Therapists Rock, and she has over 10 years experience working with children and adolescents in the residential setting. So she has a whole lot, and I want you guys to spend time really digging into her bio. And welcome, Janika, to the podcast.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. So you see, I'm not really good at all these medical terms. So
That's fine. That's fine. And they change all the time.
I know, but okay, so tell us who we are. You know, I always start the podcast, so just really people understanding like who you are, where you from, and how did you get into social work?
Okay, so I'm Janika Joyner. I am in Chesapeake, Virginia. However, the Hampton Roads, Virginia is where I practice. I've been in this area all of my life, and I didn't choose social work. Social work chose me. As a little girl, I always loved people, had a bubbly personality, could talk to anybody, anywhere, about anything almost. Loved to talk. Initially, I wanted to be a corporate lawyer. However, once I took my first women's studies course at Old Dominion University, that just rocked my world. And I said, oh no, I cannot live a lie and sleep well knowing that companies are going to, benefit and that lives are going to be affected as a corporate lawyer. So I said, okay, how about I try to be a juvenile probation officer for girls? Thought that would work out. Did an internship. It didn't. So then I said, okay, I don't want to be in the back end if the girls are already in the system. I want to help and do something beforehand. So I started working in a residential treatment facility as a residential counselor. I moved up to residential counselor 2, then 3, shift supervisor. Then I was able to step back and say, okay, what else can I do? Because we were doing restraints at that time, and it was a lot. So I didn't want to put my hands on the kids. I wanted to use my voice and my relationship with them to help. So I decided to pursue my master's degree in social work at Norfolk State University and graduated in 2012 and became a clinical therapist. This past year, I've been a licensed clinical social worker as I passed my clinical exam on February the 22nd and was awarded my license as a clinical social worker on March 1st, which is the first day of social work month. So I'm like, yay, excited. I don't like what I do. I love what I do. I get to see children, girls, adolescents grow, heal, and overcome their trauma, their past, and their experiences. I myself have done my own work, and that is where I was able to own my stuff and started my owning it series of journals on Amazon and use journaling or journal writing to express myself, to get my thoughts out, and to start to heal my own self. I'm helping all these girls heal from their trauma at work, and Janika had yet to have done her own work.
Wow.
So when I decided to start writing and talking about it, my first journal came out. It's called Owning It. My Parent is an Addict. I am a child whose parent was an addict growing up. My mother has been clean now for 7 years, and God gets all the glory for that. But for me, as a child growing up, I never knew. We didn't talk about it. I didn't know my mom was on drugs until I was about 16, 15, 16, really understood it. As a kid, when you hear, drugs, alcohol, I'm thinking, why are people drinking rubbing alcohol? We didn't talk about it. And I know that there's someone out there who may be in a similar situation. And I'm going to say, hey, number one, don't give up hope. Your parent or loved one, whomever, love them. But also don't give up hope. Don't be upset with them. And if you say some things, just forgive them and you move on. So for me, I get a sense of, I feel good. I get the altruism because I'm helping others, but I help Janika also. In this field, you cannot pour from an empty cup. I deal with heavy stuff. So I'm one that loves to have fun, but therapy it can be hard, it can be painful, but it can
Right.
also be fun.
Right.
Some people hear therapist and they get afraid. Like, no, not everyone needs a therapist, but the people that do, they
Hmm.
can benefit from it, and writing in a
Yeah.
journal is step one.
And you know what? You said so many great things. First of all, I like the fact and applaud the fact that you just kept going. And once you found that thing, you just stuck with it. And I call it dibble dally. I'm going to tell you, I dibble dally in a whole bunch of stuff, but you just kept going. And I really applaud you. And also, I applaud the fact that you recognize that, hey, you have to deal with all of this energy that you're taking in as a social worker, all of these
Right.
issues that these women are having, and you're turning it into a method where they can, have an outlet, that you can have an outlet through journaling. So that is really interesting. So what has been the impact with doing the journaling since you started that practice with you yourself or your clients?
It's liberating because I could see the transformation, and it's called a trauma narrative. And when we're working in therapy and going through the events that some of these girls have experienced, you're like, my goodness, you're still here. So the strength in them as children, I haven't experienced half as much as some of the girls I serve and work with. So for them to allow me to help them heal and navigate them through this process, it's I can't describe it. It's amazing. So for me to sit back and say, hey, let me be to myself what I am and have been to others. And as therapists, and sometimes we don't understand the importance of having a therapist or being able to practice what we preach. Vicarious trauma is real, and we have to take care of ourselves. So for me, knowing that and practicing what I preach, I can't say, go do a mental health assessment somewhere or talk to someone and encourage someone to do that if I'm not willing to do it myself. So for me,
Hmm.
again, I understand wholeheartedly how serious it is, but I take care of Janika. Now, have I been guilty of not doing it in the past?
Hmm.
Absolutely. But the saying is, you know better, you do better. So this is,
Exactly.
something that just happened and was birthed out of, years of me doing trauma work, giving a lot of myself and not pouring back into Janika. So this past year has been the year of restoration for me, but also it's been an eye-opening experience because I'm being transparent. I'm taking care of myself, and not too many people can talk about their parent being an addict and the parent being okay with it. Number one, but being in a
Right.
place where they can say it. So I'm owning my stuff
Hmm.
because if I'm owning mine, anybody else can own theirs, whatever their it is. So I'm being just
Right.
upfront and
Okay.
as a therapist, I can't necessarily disclose all of my issues. I'm not going to disclose it in a session with the kids. So that's where elevation came from because I'm bound by, ethics not to disclose so much as it can, be detrimental to the therapeutic relationship. But as a business owner and having elevation, I can go and speak to a group of girls at a community center. I can go to churches. I can go to conferences. I can tell my story and own it in public and let people know you don't have to suffer in silence. The code of brotherly love says that you share your load with someone and it lightens it because two people can carry something that's heavy versus one person struggling. And that's what I believe. If we own our stories, they don't own us anymore. We
That's
tell it,
right.
it's ours. It's your story. So why would you allow someone else to tell it?
Exactly. And you know what? You said really good things there because you have to own what you do, even when you're facing with trauma. And so let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, everybody has it in mind what trauma really is. So, from
Right.
your professional experience, break down the definition of trauma, whether it be from substance abuse or domestic abuse or just experiencing something that is shocking to your mind.
Absolutely. So for me, trauma is an upsetting or confusing event. Number one, that no one's prepared for. No one wakes up and says, I guess I'll go experience some trauma today. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you've experienced on one. You can be indirectly. You can find out about it. You can read about it. You can see it on social media. All of this access we have now to people being hurt, shot, killed on social media. You're exposing yourself. Natural disasters. Everyone remembers Katrina. That was traumatic for a lot of people. They were displaced. People's lives were lost. Bodies were floating from the cemetery. So it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual abuse or neglect. Trauma is an upsetting and confusing event that no one is prepared for and you feel that you had no control over.
Yeah.
And it can take a variety of forms. It can be natural disasters. It could
Hmm.
be, physical crime or violence. It doesn't just have to be, oh, I wasn't touched. It could be a parent being incarcerated. It could be knowing that, you know, when mom or dad decides to drink, they get different. It could be not having the emotional support that you need. So trauma, it could be getting in a car accident. So, and not everyone is going to develop, what they relate to Trump PTSD, post traumatic
Hmm.
stress
Right.
disorder. No, but at the same time, Trump, we all experienced it, and it's typical now. People are talking about it now
Right. It just
because for
seems like
years we were
trauma is,
suffering.
yeah, it just seems like trauma is the new norm. Everywhere you look, there's some kind of traumatic event going on. And over the last few years, it just feels like this is the norm now. So, with that said, how do you advise people who don't want to see a therapist, but they want to counsel their family members? I mean, what kind of advice would you give them on how to handle traumatic situations like that?
Well, that's the thing. Everyone handles them differently. So if I look at things, is it safe? Is it healthy? We all try to cope with life on life's terms the best way that we can. So for an individual who is struggling, if they're engaged in unhealthy, toxic relationships or habits, I would say, hey, maybe you want to go talk to someone. You don't necessarily have to go to a therapist. Church is great. You can go to church if you have a higher power you believe in, support groups. You don't have to go to therapy necessarily. Go online, do an assessment. Is in the privacy of your own home. No one's watching you. Just go to the computer. They even have therapists now on the internet. You don't have to go to an office. You can get telehealth therapy. So if the shame is there, just remove that. And if you really feel that family member needs help, offer to be just that listening ear and not be judgmental. Give them that outlet to be able to express themselves openly. Get them a journal and advocate that they journal and get their emotions out if they're not a talker. Just
Right.
be supportive. And that's what for some of my girls, they don't want to talk. They're afraid to. And they write and they write and they write and then they find their voice. It's liberating when you feel that you have a voice and your story matters and people want to hear you and they're interested in what you have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that I think people should really listen because you and several other people who are in the social work or mental health field are all singing the same song. And
Hmm.
it's really true because of my own experience of what I know is that you definitely have to seek a therapist. I'm not afraid to go to a therapist and say, this is my issue and get a different perspective on things. I think with all that is in the news and everywhere that is traumatic. We need to be able to deal with that, whether it be journaling or consulting or getting a therapist, and not just sitting back and just dwelling on the thoughts. Because for me, trauma means, is that what you said, but it's also triggers. It's also things that come up that triggers that emotion of how you feel after you have experienced something of that nature, and then it just keeps coming up and you're not really dealing with it. So that to me is also another that I wanted to add to your list. That if you're having those type of issues, you definitely want to seek out a therapist to, figure out how can you overcome those things. So being a therapist or a social worker, let's talk about the meat and potatoes of, social work. And, you talked about how you have to take care of yourself, but for those that are listening who want to get into social work and help out young ladies and they want to do that, what is the criteria to be a social worker? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, well, in the state of Virginia, because some states vary, we have the Board of Social Work. After you obtain your master's in social work from whatever university or college you attend, you have to register for supervision. And again, supervision is so important because in this work, you cannot just keep it all to yourself. You have to have good supervision. I can honestly say I have some of the best, hands down, supervisors that have guided me and are still guiding me. Even though I'm licensed, I still have supervision. So that's one thing. So you have to get supervised. And currently you need 3,000 hours post graduate school in the state of Virginia.
Wow.
And yes, and you have to pass a clinical exam. Yes. You have to pass a clinical exam to become licensed in the state of Virginia.
Wow.
So even though I'm licensed, I still have supervision. There are expectations, and we have a code of ethics that we must adhere to. But at the same time, being a social worker is my life's calling. It's my life's work. You do this after hours. You're thinking about your clients when you're at home. You're sending emails in the middle of the night because you're checking them. It's you're always thinking about what can I do differently? What should I have, said? What's going on with this kid? Why are we not connecting? No, social work is what it says. It is social work. You're dealing with people and you're working, and sometimes you're their voice until they get their own. You're advocating, you're linking them with resources, you're teaching, you're coaching, you're listening, you're helping, you're guiding, you're mentoring, you're a teacher. Sometimes you're that parent that they didn't have. They're having some transference. So it's a lot that we are. And we are sometimes that constant support or that one person that cared to a child, to a person who thought they did not matter and they weren't enough.
Wow. You know what? You're the first person that really broke it down to the minute because you hauled off all those adjectives. And I don't think people really understand that when you are confiding in someone, all of that you just said, that person really have to be objective. To be a social worker, you have to really be objective. And like
Yes,
you said,
ma'am.
not be judgmental and also be that voice and advocate for them and help them understand why they're doing what they're doing. And if you don't have those characteristics, you're not going to make it as a social worker. You're going to be carrying around all this stuff and you're not going to be objective. And everything you're saying is definitely on point. So, as far as your business elevation, what other services do you provide? I know one of them is coaching girls. So, what are some other stuff that you provide for your service?
Well, I do public speaking. I have 3 journals on Amazon, as I mentioned. The first one is Owning It. My Parent is an Addict. The second is Owning It, Challenging My Distorted Thinking. That is a cognitive behavioral therapy based journal that I created to utilize in therapy, where we talk about the 10 common thinking errors or cognitive distortions, how to reframe those, how they affect us in our daily lives, how we view ourselves and others. And for Black History Month, I did my third one, which is called Adjust Your Crown, Black Girls. It's just a
Adjust
30
your
day
crown.
journey.
Okay, a
Yes,
question.
Adjust Your Crowns, Black Girls. It's a 30-day journal with positive quotes from some phenomenal women. Um, Oprah, of course, some younger women, Gabby Douglas, Beyonce. So I have, it's something that I wanted to do to give back. And I think one thing about social work also that I left out is that sometimes we don't just, it's a labor of love. We don't necessarily do it for the money. We do it for the outcome. And I've seen that posted before, but I really believe that when you're doing it from the heart and you really care about people, you care about others being happy, healthy, and safe, you can't put a price tag on that. You can't.
Hmm.
It's priceless. So for me, it's if I get a phone call in the middle of the night, if I don't know who to link you, if I can't do it myself, I'm going to refer you out to someone. If I'm not sure, I'm going to find an answer or something close to be able to assist you. So I again, I created Elevation
Hmm.
out of the wanting to connect with the masses about, hey, young girl, hey, young woman, hey, it's okay if you have experiences in your past that you're not proud of. Let's talk about it. We can talk about it. Let's own it together. You don't have to do this alone. And that's one thing that I've learned is that a lot of people tend to suffer in silence, and we don't have to do that. We're sometimes, and I'm speaking to Black women also, we're conditioned not to ask for help. We're conditioned to actually look at each other and compete, and that's not okay. It's not okay. We have to do better. We must do better. So
Absolutely. We just have to just
elevation
do
is
it.
about that. Yes, it's
Okay.
like Nike, just do it. So elevation is all
So
about
like Nike, got to do it.
yes,
That's
it's about
right.
elevating everyone. And I'm not just saying, men don't experience trauma either. I'm not saying that. But for us to take care of ourselves, we have to support one another and not say elevate mind, body, and spirit because if one is suffering, if one has a problem, it's going to affect the other too. If your mind is not
Exactly.
okay, your
Hmm.
body and your spirit is not going to be okay. And, equally, they're all equally important. You have to take care of
Exactly.
yourself.
Exactly. I'm just over here agreeing with you because I'm telling you, you're speaking the truth. You really are. Now let's talk about small businesses because I don't think a lot of small businesses are really engaged with utilizing social work or therapists to help with their employees or their clients, or even themselves as entrepreneurs because we're always trying to do all be all, right? Do
Mhm.
you offer services for smaller businesses?
Well, absolutely. So workshops, trainings, conferences. I do not do individual therapy as I do that for my full time. So my business, I prefer to go out and I can talk to small businesses about stress management, meeting those deadlines, how you can learn to relax and handle, work at work and leave it at work and go home and do what you need to do to be present for your family and for yourself. Also with small businesses, I feel that I'm new to entrepreneurship. I don't have any guidance as far as what to do. So you have to get out there and network also. So I'm learning this for myself. Um, with being a small business owner, any business owner, if you're not okay mentally, your business will not be okay. If you're not doing okay. If you are not okay, your business will not be okay. And I'm learning that. So if you're doing well, if you're taking care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit, then guess what? Your business is going to start to function that way also.
Absolutely. Okay, so you've heard it, small business owners. We need to start using, I'm serious, we really need to start using some therapists to, and not just because of the psyche, but just to build teamwork, to build
Mhm.
relationships, to build productivity. Because a lot of times we go in our jobs, we're doing whatever task day in, day out, day in, day out, and then we feel like, after, over time that we might not be making a difference. And a lot of times it just takes someone like Janika to come in and just do a stress management or team building workshop to kind of re-energize the relationship, not just going to lunch and say, okay, we're just going to go do lunch together. No, we need to actually have somebody to come in and actually point out some things and get people uncomfortable and really have people talking candidly about how they feel in the workplace because I think that's really important. And I think that also helps them on an individual level as well, because I've seen that happen in some organizations where they did that. And before you know it, everybody is working like friends, instead of enemies and holding stuff back. So definitely for sure. So you mentioned that you are into speaking now, Janika. So talk about whatever activities that you're going to be in, that you're going to be speaking at, that you think people will want to come and see you, or where you're going to be at, so they can maybe just reach out to you and say, hey, I need you to speak at my event.
Oh wow. Yeah, so this thing has started to take off this year. With this speaking, I'm actually going to be in an anthology that's going to be released in June. So I'm excited about that. I have a chapter in the upcoming anthology. It's called Unchain My Legacy. So this will be my first time writing my story, some of my story, and that'll be out. So pre-sales may start as soon as next month in April. Well, I will be speaking at Tea Talk in Suffolk, Virginia on the 21st of April for anyone that's in the area. I will also be speaking at another event locally at a church for young girls in Chesapeake, Virginia. I don't have the details on that yet. They're still being finalized. I'll also be traveling to California for an Uncover Girl conference in April, the end of April. So April is looking really busy right now.
April is off the
And
chain right now. Okay,
April
so
is
you got
looking
something.
really busy right
It's
now.
off the chain right now because you're going all over the country. But do you have anything like in the summertime where people, because the podcast is going to be here in May, and so people listening to this get excited, because Janika is
Yes.
all over the country speaking.
It's as
So,
of right now, I'm going to go to Cuba at the end of May
oh
for the
my
book
goodness,
launch.
wow,
So
okay,
we the summertime is, I'm open. I don't have too much going on in May and June right now, but mental
mhm.
health awareness is in May, guys. So we have to be, ready for that and support, you know, the the actual cause of trying to end the stigma of talking about mental health. It is not a dirty word, I promise. It is not. You say physical health, guess what? Mental health is the same thing. They're equally important. If you go get a checkup, your annual, you can go check up your mental. Same thing.
That's
Not
right.
saying
Yeah.
when you go to get a checkup annually, the doctor doesn't give you a diagnosis. The doctor does
Mhm.
not say you have something going on. You go every year because you know you're supposed to. So do a mental health checkup as well. It's not a dirty word, I promise. We can say mental health and it's okay.
Okay.
Mental health, physical health. Let's end this stigma right now. Let's cut
That's
it
right.
out.
It starts right now. No more stigma. You're not crazy. You're getting it checked out. You know what I'm saying? So
No,
you know what?
right.
So
Yes, I take
Janika,
several mental health days. I do. I take mental health days. If
hmm
you call in sick because you have the flu or something, I take mental health days. Absolutely.
oh yeah, I
Absolutely.
think a lot of us take mental health days, believe it or not, but I don't think we really do anything to help our mental. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, if
Right.
you're going to take a mental day, absolutely do something that is very therapeutic to you and not, hanging out and adding more to your brain. This is the time for you to sit back and deflate, like totally
Mhm.
deflate. No thinking, no technology, and believe it or not, just getting off of technology actually helps you because then your focus is on something else more relaxing. Believe it or not, we spend a lot of time just scrolling through Facebook and our mind is
Mhm.
pretty much going right. But if you're going to
Yes.
take a mental health day, just don't do anything involving technology. That's for
Yes.
me because I'm gonna tell you, I once I do that, I am totally relaxed. Okay,
Yes. Go
so
to the beach, get a massage,
that's right.
relax, plant in your garden,
Hmm.
go watch a game, a comedy, go to the movies. Yes, check out. So they say that, things normally reset after you unplug them. And that's accurate for cell phones and us. You got to unplug.
That is
You
so
got to
true.
unplug. You have to unplug.
That's right. So, for people who are listening, we pretty much then gave you the 411 in your personal and professional life that therapy, mental health checkup is not a bad thing. It is no longer one of those things where you feel like you got to hide in the closet because you don't want to tell people that you're going to go see a therapist. You need to see a therapist. You need to see someone who is very objective and is on your side. And for entrepreneurs, if you're having trouble with productivity for your employees or your staff, or even just you and other coworkers, okay, in general, especially if you're the manager and you have other managers, definitely bring in somebody like Janika to come in and do a team building workshop or a stress workshop so you can stay productive and objective. So Make sure you also check out some of the other people that's going to be on this podcast that's also in Janika's field, because they all have something different. And you never know, you just never know, that person may have just that thing for you. So, Janika, give everybody your contact information so they can find you, and also whatever events that you're going to be having coming up in May or June or whatever, just let me know, and I will put it on your page so people can see it and access it.
Awesome. So yes, I am on Facebook as Janika Joyner, LCSW, my fan page. I am on Instagram as Elevate, ELEV, the number 8, Elevation on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel, Janika Joyner, where I have a couple videos about the importance of journaling and why. I give 5 reasons why twice, so 10 reasons why you should journal. I am on Amazon. All 3 of my journals are there. Janika Joyner in the search. And you can find my website at www.elevationcounselingservice.com.
All
And
right,
as of
y'all,
right
get
now, I don't have
elevated.
anything going on. Yeah, I
That's
can't wait
right.
to help you elevate.
That's right. Elevate yourself. Trust me when I tell you it's time to elevate. That's what this all about. So thank
Right,
you so much, Janika, so very much for becoming a business affiliate sponsor to support small businesses and author and being part of the movement. I really appreciate you. And definitely when I get some staff, you're going to be the first person I'm going to call and say, hey, I need some team building because I want my team to be right. Okay. So
right.
thank you so very much for being on here and sharing your story. And I really look forward to meeting up with you in the future, or perhaps collaborating with you to maybe talk about some of those things in some of the what you were talking about in the BMWOC group.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.